Question that we used to get is about Seattle's minimum wage. And, one of the big things is that Seattle back in the day really and truly captured a lot of people's attention because the minimum wage was $15. And so a lot of people, in other parts of the country were just shocked by this. The minimum wage was 15 bucks when in most places it's like, I don't know how much it is, the minimum wage is, but at any rate, a lot of people were just taken back by the fact that the city has a minimum wage that was $15 an hour. So folks were wondering, when did that take place? How is that going to take place? How does that all work and all of that type of stuff? So I'm going to kind of break that down for you because we're talking about the minimum wage for workers in Seattle and in Tacoma. Okay, because these two cities have totally different minimum wages, and Tacoma actually gets a minimum wage increase starting January 1 of 2019. And Tacoma's minimum wage is a lot simpler. It's just across the board, no matter what industry you work for, this is how much you get paid. Seattle's is a little bit more complicated because it has all these different provisions within it. Okay. Let me look up what the state minimum wage is. But first, starting January 1 of 2019, Tacoma's minimum wage will be $12.35. So no matter what industry you work in, it's going to be $12.35 an hour as a minimum. So if you work at McDonald's, or you work for Starbucks, or you work for a mom and pop shop, or whatever, minimum wage starting the first of the year is $12.35 an hour. Okay, that is the bare minimum. Now Seattle is a little bit more complicated because it basically went up and did a lot of different things over time. It actually shot up to $15 an hour at a very short amount of time. When you look at, and before I get to Seattle, the state of Washington, its actual minimum wage is $11.50. So Tacoma pays you more over the course of, let me get rid of this thing here. Hold on one second. So Tacoma pays you more, obviously, than the state of Washington. Of course, it costs more to live in Tacoma than it does the state of Washington. But for the state, it's $11.50 an hour. I think in California, it's $11 an hour. In Oregon, it's $10.75. In Idaho, is $7.25. So it gives you a little bit of a perspective. Now, I mentioned the states because that's important. I don't know if the cities within Oregon or California, what those are, if it's higher or lower, or, well, it can't be lower, but higher or whatnot. But it gives you an idea. For the state of Washington, it pays the most on the West Coast at $11.50. Oregon's $10.75, California is $11, and Idaho is $7.25. Now, of course, it doesn't cost much to live in Idaho. But that's not what you're watching this video for. When it comes to Seattle, it depends. Okay? If you work for McDonald's or Target or a large company that has, or a chain that has 500 employees globally, and you receive no benefits whatsoever, right? No healthcare benefits or anything like that, you actually get paid $15.45 an hour. So if you get no benefits, nothing like that, in Seattle, it's $15.45 an hour. If you work for Starbucks or some large company or chain that has at least 500 employees globally, and you do get benefits, it's $15 an hour. Okay, so no benefits, $15.45 an hour. If you do get medical benefits and things like that, it's $15 an hour. Okay. If you are a small company or chain with 500 employees or less, so smaller than 500 employees, and the employee does not get tips and they don't get health care or anything like that benefits, then it's $14 an hour. So this is kind of like your mom and pop store. Let's say that you work there and it's just a general store. Then your pay is $14 an hour. Okay? If you work for a company that is let's say a mom and pop restaurant, this is a lot easier. It's a small company that has just a few employees, and you are basically allowing the employees to get tips. The minimum wage is $11.50. Okay, so it's the state minimum on that aspect. However, to make it even more complicated, you still have to make at least $15 an hour if your tips don't make it up. Okay, so let's say that you get paid, the company pays you $11.50 an hour as a base. It's just a bare minimum. But if your tips come in and it puts you over $15 an hour, the company has to do nothing else. But if people aren't tipping well enough and it falls under $15 an hour, that company has to compensate and bring that pay up to $15 an hour, right? So let's say that you worked one night and you only got $5 in tips and it didn't cover what you would normally should have gotten as far as $15 an hour. And so instead, you only got paid, I don't know, for that whole entire day, you only got, I don't know, $100. But you should have got like $120. Well, the company has to bring it up, and you only got $5 in tips. Company has to bring it up to an extra $15 because you should have made $120 as a bare minimum. I know that's complicated. I hope I'm not confusing you or anything like that, but it's rather simple. The small mom and pop places can pay $11.50 an hour, and your tips should be able to bring you up to where you're above $15 an hour when everything's factored in. If for any reason your tips don't equal that amount of $15 an hour, that mom and pop place has to give you enough money to make it get up to that particular point, right? So it's complicated in a certain degree, but it kind of isn't. Seattle's a little bit different in terms of how they structure minimum wage and how much you get paid, how much you have to be compensated for, whether you have health benefits or not, the size of the company. What they're wanting to do is have a phase period of where smaller companies are able to over time increase their salaries to get to where it's $15 an hour. That's why you see the difference there. That's why a company that even can be a chain, if it's a small company that has less than 500 employees globally, then it can pay $14 an hour. Right? It can pay less than 15 an hour, which is the city's minimum wage. You can pay less than that. But there's going to come a point in time where they actually have to increase that pay to where it's going to be where it should be. Because again, let's say I opened up my own little company and I had, 30 employees. I can technically pay them 14 an hour. Okay, they don't get any sort of tips, they don't get any sort of healthcare benefits, nothing like that. I only have 50 employees or 30 employees, whatever I said. And because I don't have 500 employees or more globally, I can pay them 14 an hour in Seattle. But that may change, and that will change eventually. If I am Starbucks and I do actually give benefits to employees, and I have more than 500 employees globally, then I have to pay them 15 an hour. That's kind of where most companies sit at. Or if I'm a company that has 500 or more employees globally and I don't pay any sort of benefits at all, then I have to give the employee, so if I'm a McDonald's or a Target or something like that, that I have to give you $15.45 an hour. So you have to weigh your options there. Still, making that type of money in Seattle doesn't really help a whole lot because the cost of living is so high. Even here with the $12 and something an hour, that doesn't really do a lot. I mean, do people survive on it? Yeah, they do. And it's very, very challenging. But even at $12.35 an hour in Tacoma, the cost of living is a lot cheaper than it is in Seattle. It's not a tremendous amount of difference in terms of living there versus here. But 12.35 an hour versus 15 an hour is a pretty big difference when you're looking at it on your paycheck. Neither place, in terms of the minimum wage, is going to really do you justice in terms of what it costs to actually live in both cities. When it comes to the state, 11.50 an hour, that's a little bit different, right? So once you move outside of this metro area and you go to some of the smaller communities, 11.50 an hour, not that big of a deal, right? You could survive off of 11.50 an hour. It's just in this particular area, the pay, even on the minimum wage side, is kind of difficult to actually make it through. But anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope this provided you with some information that people were curious about. A lot of people have asked about this before. And so I wanted to actually pin that down, especially since Tacoma's minimum wage goes up to $12.35 on January 1 of 2019. If you have any questions, make sure you put them down in the comment section below. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and until next time, I will see you. Take care.